I now invite the Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in the Palestinian territories occupied since 1967 to make an introductory statement. Ms. Albanese, you have the floor.
Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. On day 751 of the genocide in Gaza, I begin by honoring the victims and survivors of all genocides, past and present, including the Native Americans, particularly the Lenape people, the original stewards of the land on which the UN headquarters now stands. People of conscience long for the day when the country built on the genocides of countless indigenous nations in what is now called the United States will atone for its past and embrace a multilateralism grounded in equality and mutual respect. I deeply regret not being able to present this report in person due to unlawful and spiteful sanctions imposed on me for fulfilling my UN mandate. And thank you for those who have expressed solidarity to my persona and mandate. But this assembly should have already confronted this dangerous precedent. These measures constitute an assault on the UN itself, its independence, its integrity, its very soul. If left unchallenged, these sanctions will drive yet another nail into the coffin of the multilateral system. And yet, there is profound symbolism in the place from which I speak, South Africa, whose legacy reminds the world that freedom is indivisible. The chains on one are the chains on all. And as we gather, Gaza remains strangled, starved, shattered. Hundreds of thousands have been killed or injured. Thousands are missing, buried under the rubble, or disappeared into Israeli dungeons. And as the dust settles and the fire continues, survivors search for the remains of loved ones, while bodies long withheld by the Israeli army are returned bearing signs of torture and desecration, many in a state that makes them impossible to identify. In the West Bank, settler colonial expansion intensifies. Israeli forces raid, arrest, and kill, while violent settlers burn villages, uproot trees, seize more land, pogrom after pogrom. My report makes it clear. These horrors are neither sudden nor accidental. They are the culmination of decades of moral and political failure within a resilient colonial world order sustained by a global system of complicity. Through unlawful actions and deliberate omissions, too many states have harmed, funded, and shielded Israel's militarized apartheid, allowing its settler colonial enterprise to metastasize into genocide, the ultimate crime against the indigenous people of Palestine. And how did it happen? First, diplomacy. Diplomatic fora meant to preserve peace have been used to justify and advance this genocide, dehumanizing the Palestinians, legitimize Israel's false claim to be acting in self-defense or vetoing ceasefires. Those who have dared to oppose it by using, for example, the international justice system like South Africa, Palestine, Nicaragua, or Norway before the International Court of Justice, or those who have engaged with International Criminal Court have come under heavy pressure. Second, military ties. Weapons, intelligence, and joint trainings have fed the genocidal machinery. The United States alone accounts for 2/3 of Israel's weapon imports. Dozens of other countries, though, continue training arms and surveillance devices that have been field tested on the Palestinians. Decision makers have thereby exposed themselves to possible accountability before both national and international courts. Third, trade. Over 2 years, Israel's exports soared to $474 billion US, fueling its war economy. And despite 2 years of genocide, the European Union quick to sanction Russia over Ukraine remains Israel's main trade partner, including in dual-use goods deployable for military purposes. This trade and all related military agreements must be immediately suspended. And last but not least, the weaponization of aid. The unlawful Gaza blockade has gone largely unchallenged by states. And while attacks on UNRWA, the backbone of the UN humanitarian response in the region and in Gaza in particular, have been tolerated or repeated, the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has turned aid distribution into killing fields for starving civilians. While this has been dismantled now, this gruesome enterprise and those behind it must be held accountable. Excellencies and delegates, international law is clear. No state may aid or assist another committing international crimes. This is neither charity nor a matter of choice. It is binding upon you. It's a binding obligation, and violating it risks complicity. Therefore, states must secure a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, in ensuring full Israel's withdrawal from all occupied Palestinian territory and the dismantlement of the settlements. Second, suspend all military, trade, and diplomatic ties with Israel until it ends and remedies its genocide, unlawful occupation, and apartheid. And third, investigate and, where warranted, prosecute those potentially involved in these crimes, including those who served in the Israeli army during and profiteered from the genocide. This is how we begin to honor the memory of those killed. And if the Security Council is paralyzed, this assembly must act under uniting for peace with greater resolve than ever before. And this is how we also honor the dignity of those who survived. This is how we give full meaning to this august institution that has just turned 80. From the ruins of Gaza and from the hope of South Africa, through the resilience of Palestine, may a new multilateralism rise, not a facade, but a living framework of rights and dignity, not for the few, not of the few, but for the many. Thank you.